Whew, those San Francisco 49ers absolutely rolling, dominating stretch of football. Eighth straight win for the 49ers on Christmas Eve, 37-20 over the Washington Commanders. We will get into all of it on today's podcast. The keyest plays, the keyest players, game balls for week 16 coming at you right now.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker with you as always at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker. Thanks for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And we're talking about every day. We even mean Christmas Day. Merry Christmas to everybody out there as we're recording this. This is the not so rapid react episode. We didn't get to record on Christmas Eve right after the game, but we're coming at you actually on Christmas Day between houses, between opening presents, between hanging out with some family. I hope everybody out there is having a great holiday and able to see some family. And for those of you who were not able to, hopefully you're able to watch the football game and are able to at least hang out with us. So Merry Christmas to all of you out there. And thanks for making us your first listen, as always, on the Locked On Podcast Network.
And Merry Christmas to you, Peacock.
Oh, thank you, buddy. Yeah, Merry Christmas to Crocker and the Crocker fam. We're both in California. We're not too far apart, actually, right now. Both of us in the Central Valley of California doing our thing. And yeah, it's nice to see some family, eat a lot of food, and do that kind of thing. And both of us obviously not in our home studios right now, but that's okay because we're talking 49ers and such an amazing win for the 49ers that just keep on going. And this team, Croc, like, correct me if I'm wrong, the way they're playing as good as any team in the league. And even with your 7th round quarterback, it's almost as if this team is there's some destiny involved with this team, right? And it's like the Commanders were a team fighting for a playoff spot, and they came in to Santa Clara to the 49ers, and they had no shot. They had no shot when the game was 7 at halftime. Feel the same way?
Yeah, I think, when you look at this 49ers team and what's going on right now, they are playing extremely well on all levels of the field. Offense, they're clicking. Defense, they're firing. I think the defense continues to set the 49ers offense up in big-time situations, and it's been extremely consistent over the last 2 months. And I like saying that. You talked about 8 straight wins. I have a group chat with my buddies. I'm like, dude, 49ers, I don't care what any of y'all are saying. They haven't lost in 2 months. It's been 2 months since the 49ers lost the game. It seems like forever ago, them getting their butts kicked at home to the Kansas City Chiefs. So since then, everything has been really good. I'd say if there's one thing to kind of keep it in perspective, and maybe this isn't the 49ers issue, I think it's kind of an NFC thing, but they haven't played against, I guess if you look at the level of competition, a lot of the teams that they won during that stretch are kind of struggling a little bit. Even the Miami Dolphins, who jumped out in a big lead against the Green Bay Packers earlier today, and then now they're in the dog fight with the Packers. So interesting with how the schedule is laid out. When you originally looked at this schedule, said, oh man, that back into games, that's going to be tough. So far, so good for the 49ers, and they are handling business. And if you are going to play some competition that isn't great, dominate them. And the 49ers are 100% doing that.
Absolutely, man. That defense is absurd, and keeping all these running backs under 60 yards every single week. Brian Robinson, I mean, he runs hard, right? But you get the feeling these running backs are like, man, I don't want to keep running hard against this defense. 22 carries for 58 yards. That's a 2.6 clip for this team's best running back, right? And it's like it's so hard for offenses against the 49ers to do anything consistently for an entire game to score more than 20 points. And on the other side, the offense is doing so much. This complementary brand of football is I think the complementary the way that offense has been complementing the defense recently is as good as we've seen it for a while. And that's what's so exciting about this, and what's so exciting about young Brock Purdy and the way he's playing, despite the one interception in this game, still a 114 points passer rating, still a couple of touchdowns, still finding some big plays, still finding some of the easy plays as well. And as Trent Williams put it, I think last week, when talking about complementary football. He's like, it's hard to play complementary football with how good the defense is playing. But right now the offense is doing a really good job of putting up points, even if it was, 3 straight field goals in the second half in this game, to keep putting up points, to keep the ball away from that defense enough to let them just continue to dominate and make things so hard on opposing offenses.
Yeah, a lot of what I look at with this team is, what are the expectations? I think everybody can agree right now it is Super Bowl or bust. And you typically don't say that with a rookie quarterback. So now I'm looking at all the things where it's like, okay, where can they improve? And I kind of look at this with my son as well, right? My son, I can't just go watch him play basketball. I have to look at it from like a scouting perspective with, all right, okay, yeah, he scored 15 points or whatever, but oh man, he needs to get back on defense better, or he could drop his butt down when playing defense. I'm picking out all these things that can potentially take his game to the next level. And I look at the 49ers, the defense gave you the ball 3 times I believe in the second half in Washington territory, and you came away with a total of 9 points. And when your team is setting you up with that type of, success and field position, I think ideally in another game, down the stretch, whatever, you would like to come out with more points than 9. So, I mean, we're talking about a team that's clicking. You have to really nitpick to find anything wrong with this team. And I would say watching the game yesterday, I was actually at the game. That would be my one quote-unquote gripe, which obviously I really don't care. 49ers kicked their butt. I think scored, 30 points in the second half. So who cares about the field goal? But if for this team to be who you want them to be, they have to convert a few more of those into touchdowns.
Yeah, their last 8 drives of the game or something, it was touchdown, punt, touchdown, field goal, touchdown, or something like that. So like right, one punt amongst them. So the offense is definitely doing their jobs. Better 3 than 0s. You'd like to get some more 6s, but they scored almost 40 points. They scored 37 points. And that's the big takeaway for me in this game, with Brock Purdy in the passing game and seeing George Kittle's, sort of late season breakout again, and seeing that connection between Purdy and Kittle, which is awesome to see. And you forget how good Kittle is. He needs those targets. We've been talking about it. Like, keep targeting Kittle because he's so good, and he can make a huge difference for this offense. And you're seeing it and hitting those seam throws too, of like even some big throws. And of course, he's so good with the catch and run stuff. And when the 49ers, because that Washington defense is no joke. They got 4 first-round picks up there, and there wasn't a lot of space to run. And so the 49ers passing game picking up the running game in a Kyle Shanahan offense, and we've seen that in the past where points got pretty difficult if the 49ers weren't able to run the ball well, and they weren't able to in this game. In fact, when you look at the 49ers run totals here, Christian McCaffrey, it was very similar to what we saw with Brian Robinson. Not a lot of places to go for Christian McCaffrey in this one. He had a long of 9-yard run. Aside from that, there wasn't any room at all. He had 15 carries for 46 yards, 3.1 yards per carry. Ty Davis Price was in there with Jordan Mason getting kind of banged up earlier in the game, but it turns out he was okay. Ty Davis Price running hard, but looked much like Brian Robinson again, running hard, big back, boom, right into this huge defensive line, 9 carries for 30 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. So the 49ers actual running backs were only just above 3 yards per carry in this game, but they had the one big run from Ray McLeod early to put him on the board in the second quarter, a 71-yard touchdown, which was huge, and everything else was the passing game. It was all about the passing game in this one with Brock Purdy, and needing to lean on their 7th-round rookie quarterback to go get points, which he was able to do with George Kittle throwing those 2 touchdown passes. George Kittle 6 for 120, Brandon Ayuk 5 for 81 in this one. Juwan Jennings a couple of big catches, 3rd and Juwan, a couple out of the backfield to Christian McCaffrey. So really, this game wasn't about the Shanahan running game at all. It was about Brock Purdy's passing offense that was able to put enough points up to win, and obviously the 49ers defense doing a number on the Washington Commanders offense and continuing to give the ball back to him.
Right, and if you look at just let's say Brock Purdy's stats from the first half weren't great. I believe he was around 50% of completion percentage. He threw for 55 yards, and you're looking at it like, okay, where's this passing offense? Then second half, Kyle Shanahan does a good job of saying, you know what, you threw a first half interception. We didn't really have the ball a whole lot in the first half. I'd say the time of possession leaned heavily towards Washington, but I'm going to put the ball in my 7th-round quarterback's hands, and we're going to make some throws early on, and we're going to opened up this passing game. And he came right out first play. Boom, nice pass. I believe it was maybe to Brandon Ayuk. We obviously know about the catch and run by George Kittle getting, it was on a big bootleg. You had him wide open in the flats. Boom, you hit him, and he does the rest. And then you see the same pass for a touchdown. And it's like, wow, he's splitting. I don't know what the safety in the middle of the field was doing, but it just wasn't there. But it's wide open. And I'd say that one thing that we have not seen from a 49ers quarterback, and not the same thing about Jimmy Garoppolo, but the throws, like when there are guys open, which, I mean, we know they're going to be open in this passing game, in this scheme, just make the throw. It doesn't have to be crazy. It doesn't have to be special. Just make the throw. And now we're seeing more explosive passing plays, not because Brock Purdy has to fit the ball into the tiniest windows. It's, hey, we're going to scheme these things open on throws downfield, and this guy's going to get the ball there. And now we're seeing that in multiple games. So that was one thing that I was really excited to see against the Washington Commanders. Just a guy's running open, hit the guy that's wide open, and he's doing that even downfield. Love to see it.
No doubt. It's so fantastic to see. And you're waiting for, and the good thing about all of this, and of course there's more to come here today, and we'll talk about some game balls, and of course get a little bit more to the defensive side of the ball too. But with Brock Purdy, you don't need him to do amazing stuff. You just need him to play pretty good. And he's been doing it, even if he throws an interception, and not much really going in the first half for the 49ers, except for a 71-yard, end around to their wide receiver. And he's still able to come up with 37 points and still be able to make big plays and make big throws, even if it's not perfect, even if they're, even if you need him to do it against a good defense. And that's what I take away from this game, is just feeling better and better each week about Brock Purdy and making those big plays. And again, they're not like, oh, I'm throwing this Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes seed 60 yards on a dime across the field that nobody else can make. He's just taking what's there and showing anticipation and showing accuracy and understanding where to go with the football, and not afraid to make those big throws. And the 49ers offense is operating right now. It's so fun to watch.
Did you hear what Shady McCoy said about the kind of quarterback play around the league, and saying, he was like talking about some guys that were playing poorly, and gosh, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he said he said this is the easiest team to be a quarterback for. And he was talking about one team. He said, you know what, wait, scratch that. The easiest team to be a quarterback for is the 49ers. And then whoever he was talking about, he said that's second. But what he means by that is, when you have this defense and you never feel like you're in a pinch offensively, which they just have not been, it makes everyone a little bit more comfortable. It makes it to where your head coach, who's the play caller, can play ahead of the sticks and is very clear with what he wants to do, and he's able to set things up without the thought of, man, what if this goes bad? And you see the 49ers, everyone's kind of playing that way offensively. You have guys with great run after catch. You see Brandon Ayuk had a 58-yard reception or whatever it was, where he just broke off the defender. I mean, broke him off. There was 10 yards of separation. So as a quarterback, it's like, I just have to get the ball to him. And Brock Purdy's doing a really good job of getting the ball to him. And all right, now you have a run after catch opportunity. So I agree with right now with how the defense is complementing this offense and setting them up in great situations and just low pressure situations. Everybody on offense is taking advantage of that. And this team right now, they are cooking. And I don't see that going anywhere. I see Brock Purdy continuing to be able to play at the level he's playing at right now. I'd say in the playoffs, things do get a little tighter, which we've seen that. So then there might have to be a little bit. I mean, but that's down the line. We'll worry about that down the line. Right now, he's doing everything and more that's asked of him, and it's contributing to 37 points. I think over 30 points in the last 5 games or something crazy like that. Like 2 or 3 out of the last 5 games, they scored over 30 points, which we wanted a lot of points. We're getting them now.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot of those stats coming out about, the last time a quarterback has done this in 3 starts, since Dan Marino, and we're seeing all those stats out there, which is really fun to see too. So more on this game, more on the 49ers, more on the 49ers defense, giving out some game balls in this one as well on a special Christmas edition of Locked On 49ers on the road. Today's episode is brought to you in part by PrizePicks. PrizePicks Daily Fantasy. You're sitting there on Christmas thinking, I want to play some daily fantasy sports. You can do it. You can do it every day. That's why it's called Daily Fantasy. And PrizePicks is about as easy as it gets to play fantasy sports any old day and maybe earn up to 10 times your money on an entry while doing it. Here's how it works. All you do is you make an entry, takes 60 seconds or less, super easy. You're not You're not picking an entire lineup of players. You're not playing against other people. It's just you versus the PrizePicks projections that are available in just about any sport. You pick 2 to 5 players. If they go score more or less than their PrizePicks projection for whatever the projection is, yards or catches or goals or whatever it is, whatever your sport you're playing, if you go more or less than their PrizePicks projection and you are correct, you can win up to 10 times your money on that entry. PrizePicks offers projections on just about any sport that you watch, including tons of NFL projections, of course, NBA, NHL. We're talking PGA golf, college sports, hoops, women's hoops, soccer, WNBA, esports, NASCAR, MMA, boxing, you name it, you can find projections at PrizePicks. And PrizePicks currently operational in over 30 states, including Canada. So download the PrizePicks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, PrizePicks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, PrizePicks will give you $50 more to play with. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On at sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Make sure to check out Locked On Sports Today. The biggest stories around the sports world in 20 minutes or less, plus instant reactions, game recaps, and Locked On's Take of the Day. Locked On Sports Today available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. All right, Christmas edition continues here of Locked On 49ers, and a nice little gift for 49ers fans on Christmas Eve, watching the 49ers roll over the Washington Commanders 37-20. A couple of those quick stats on Brock Purdy. I mean, this Brock Purdy story, like it's hard because we're in the moment, Croc. But this is a special time, and I don't know what it's going to end like. I have no idea, but I just get so his confidence gives me confidence. And so, the 49ers players feel the same way. And we keep hearing them talk about it after the games. Like, man, ever since he came in, he just kind of had this thing about him. And it's like, I don't know if it's a special thing that Brock Purdy has, like how long this is going to be if we're talking about Brock Purdy in 5-10 years. But this story right now with this team going to the playoffs with literal Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the draft, is insane. A couple more notes on Brock Purdy real quick. And according to NFL research here, only 2 players have started their careers 3-0 with multiple touchdown passes in each game since quarterback starts were first being tracked in 1950. And Brock Purdy is one of those. The other one was undrafted free agent and Pro Bowl and Hall of Fame and Super Bowl winning quarterback Kurt Warner. So I wanted to bring that stat up most because of the Super Bowl winning nature of Kurt Warner's career and how he was such a late pick and came out of nowhere. And that's kind of what's happening with Brock Purdy and winning in a lot of the similar ways that Kurt Warner won. Right. And when you're looking for comps, you're looking for a player that's like, okay, he was overlooked. Well, why does he win? Well, he's smart. He's competitive. He gets the ball out on time to playmakers when he needs to. And that was Kurt Warner's career, and you can win with that kind of a player. So I love seeing that comparison more than some of the other ones where it's Dan Marino and Patrick Mahomes or whatever. And there's a lot of those comparisons. There was another stat.
Taylor Heineke.
Yeah, right. Or Taylor Heineke, which we saw is like, some a little bit more turnover prone. And look,
he had a tougher, like if you swap positions, like swap the teams, Heineke might look a little different. It was a tough situation for him. Yes. And some of the throws that he had to make. It's like, well, I have to be perfect throwing the ball down the field. And it was a little different, the hand that they were dealt.
Yes, absolutely. And I think Heineke would probably look better on the 49ers and Brock Purdy might not look as good on Washington. Although Washington does have some playmakers. Like they just missed on that early touchdown. That could have changed the whole complexion of the game. It was the very first drive of the game, right? The deep ball, and Lenore was kind of a little bit lost, and Jahan Dotson wasn't able to make the catch, which probably would have been a touchdown. That would have put the Commanders up 7-0 early. Yeah.
Lenore was running to where Dotson was running to.
Yes.
So it's like, well, I'm running to where you are. Typically, like, that's a good thing. Unless the ball is thrown in a weird spot to where the receiver whose head is around can adjust to it, and the quarterback is like, wait, we're both heading this way. Why are you suddenly stopping?
Where are you going, dude? Yeah. Yeah. So a little bit, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. And on that series, it definitely was for the 49ers because points were hard to come by in the first half after that. I'm actually surprised that the score ended up getting to 37-20 because judging by the first half of the game, I was like, oh, this is going to be I don't know, that one of those 17-16 games or something like that. That's what I thought the final score was going to be. But all of a sudden, like, both offenses start scoring a little bit more. And there are some weapons for Taylor Heineke to throw to. But we keep seeing this with the 49ers defense. And they replaced their quarterback. They bench Heineke, put in Carson Wentz to try to give them, a little bit of a boost on offense. That didn't work for Washington. We've seen quarterbacks get benched. We've seen coaches get fired after they played the 49ers. We've seen teams that are like, what was it, 1-12 now after playing the 49ers the next week. So the 49ers are just like not only winning games, but they're like making franchises question their football team after they play the 49ers. That's what kind of throw domination this team is. And like, if I'm watching, I'm on Ron Rivera. It's like, if you thought Heineke was a better quarterback to start before the 49ers game, don't change it because you played the 49ers. You know what I mean? Because the 49ers are doing that to everybody right now. That's how good their defense is, and that's how hard it is to play against this team right now.
Yeah, I mean, you see it didn't matter, right? It's like, all right, you take out Heineke. Yeah. What doesn't matter? Nick Bosa's still on the other side. So he's wreaking havoc. He's getting after the quarterback. He's hitting guys just as they're trying to throw the ball before they hit the ground. And, I mean, that is tough. I talk a lot about time clock and your time clock being sped up. And regardless of who you have back there at quarterback, because Nick Bosa is on the other side, which I would assume he solidified himself as Defensive Player of the Year this season. But because Nick Bosa is on the other side, your quarterback is always going to have that eternal clock going faster than it should, which is going to lead to some weird stuff. So it doesn't matter who you have at quarterback. I talked earlier, I tweeted out about the Miami Dolphins against the Green Bay Packers and how just that RPO offense by the Dolphins and the windows that it creates these huge gaping windows. And I saw it against the 49ers, but Tua just missed the throws. And that was very uncharacteristic of Tua. He had been extremely accurate, but why is he missing those throws to wide open guys? Even if you're not getting the pressure, it's just the thought of having those, like, I know Nick Bosa's coming. And you just throw it a little sooner than you want to. You miss throws. Now, just imagine if you don't even have guys open. Then it's even more drastic of, gosh, and they just could not block Nick Bosa for an entire game. And there's pressure. Then you have other guys getting sacked. You got Kevin Willis chasing quarterbacks down from the backside. Like, I mean, that is tough to defend. So it doesn't matter who you have at quarterback on the other side. Now, I saw somebody tweet you, and then they tagged me in as well and said, I was worried about this game. Well, why are you worried? The 49ers, they're just the better team of all the. I'm not going to be worried about the Raiders. I'm not going to be worried about the Arizona Cardinals. Now, if one of these teams surprise the 49ers, cool. But I don't go into these games thinking that the 49ers have anything to worry about. They're playing at an extremely high level on offense and defense. Even if the offense starts slow like they did this game, the defense is going to pick them up. The defense is going to force takeaways. They're going to get sacks. I mean, this is an extremely difficult team to play against. And everything that we thought this team would be heading into the season, they are that and more at this current moment.
The only teams that I would even be remotely like nervous about playing right now for the 49ers, the way they're playing. And you nailed it. Like the Raiders, no. And that's not to say that any team can't beat any team. They could lose some of these games. They could lose in the first round of the playoffs. But I'm not worried about any of these teams. I'm worried about NFC Championship game against the Eagles, right? In their house. That would be a game where it's like, okay, this is going to be a good one, right? But I'm going into these games right now as confident as I can remember watching a 49ers team, probably going back to Harbaugh era, to be honest with you.
Yeah, because 2019 was still a little weird. So, yeah, it was like, they kind of get, okay, what's going on? Okay, oh my goodness, they've won 8 straight games, but it always was like, okay, what's the next thing that they have to do? And then you lose to the Falcons. You're not having the Falcons loss right now, not in the last 2 months. So, yeah, you have to go back to 2011, 2012 to where it's just like, 49ers are just going to kick everybody's butts every game that they time to line up.
Right, yeah. And the only thing that's going to mess up the 49ers is if they screw around on New Year's Eve before that New Year's Day game in Las Vegas against the Raiders, right? Like the town might get them more so than the team playing in that town. Just not so much even because of the Raiders. And this isn't to bash the Raiders, although I know there's a lot of 49ers fans out there that can't wait to bash Raiders fans and talk smack about this one. So it's an important game for the 49ers to win, I think, for the fan base coming up on New Year's. But the 49ers are just rolling. Like, I'm not worried about it. The thing I start to get worried about is, okay, well, we saw 44 points from Patrick Mahomes. We saw, what was it 2020 or 2021? No, Yeah, it's 2020, right? The year before they drafted Trey Lance, because seeing what Josh Allen did to the 49ers, and it's like, okay, those are just sort of different dudes, different teams. Like, those are the teams I would be like, okay, this is going to be something. But I think you ask the 49ers defense to a man, Nick Bosa, all these dudes, like, hey, you want another shot at the Kansas City Chiefs? They'd say, hell yes, I want another shot at the Kansas City Chiefs, right? So that would be a really fun one. But these teams the 49ers have on the schedule right now, yeah, you're exactly right. Definitely not worried about these games, especially after the one that was really set up to be a letdown for the 49ers was short week, Thursday primetime at Seattle. Injured quarterback, 7th rounder Brock Purdy. Once they got through that, I was like, oh, dude, this team is something's going on here. And yeah.
That would be, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, that would be the bigger question right now. I was like, well, we'll get to that later in the year, but when your offense has to score, right? When there is the pressure of, we have to keep up with this other team because our defense, who has had our back all year, right? Like, all of a sudden the offense has to have their back in the sense of, you have to go and be the reason. And I think that's the part right there where 49ers have not had to be in that situation really for the most part of these last 2 months. That is a different type of sense of urgency that they're not under right now. So what does that offense look like in that situation when your defense isn't getting the sacks and interceptions and fumbles that are setting you up in scoring positions? Like that's a tougher dynamic there that is in the back of my head, but we'll let it play out.
Right. Like a couple of bounces don't go your way. Maybe there's a fumble that bounces to the other team. Maybe they hit that Jahan Dotson early in the game. Now you're behind. Now the other team can treat your offense a little bit more one-dimensional, and those kind of really tough situations. And the 49ers have been so good at not getting themselves into those tough situations either. And especially when they have, you're playing against Heineke, you're not playing against Mahomes and Josh Allen. So that's where things will start to get interesting. In the playoffs, it's always one and done. So you never know. But man, this team is just rolling, and seems like there's some destiny with this squad right now. It's a pretty unbelievable story that we're in the middle of right now. It's something that my wife. It's something that the script, they throw the script away. One of these Hallmark movies my wife keeps watching here during the Christmas season. I don't know if she really likes these movies or she's trying to send me a message and wants like a divorce or something, because these movies are so bad. And I'm like, man, who's writing these scripts? But the 49ers with the script would get thrown away. Mr. Irrelevant, right? Like I could see this being written, Mr. Irrelevant Christmas, and it's some Lifetime Hallmark movie. And it's like this, this sort of regular looking dude. And, he's the last pick in the draft, and then he makes good. And then he meets his future wife on the road to winning the Super Bowl. And, so I don't know.
Did you watch The Underdog with Kurt Warner?
No.
It was kind of like that. So you brought him up earlier and said that's more comparable to kind of who they are, right? The guy that wasn't drafted, and Trent Green went down with an injury, right? Kurt Warner had to come back, a guy who was cut from the Packers. Now Brock wasn't cut by anyone, but just starting off as a third string quarterback and having to be ready for the moment. And right now it looks like Brock Purdy's up to the challenge.
No doubt. Next, let's give out some game balls. Plenty to give out. Let's see how stingy or how gracious we want to be on this Christmas Day special episode of Locked On 49ers, giving out some game balls for Week 16. Next, let me tell you a little bit of let's talk about stories here. How about this story? And this is very familiar probably to a lot of you. Going back home, maybe going back to see some old friends right in the neighborhood and hanging out, and maybe you put a few drinks back during the holiday season. A few becomes a few too many as the evening comes to an end and people start to head out. Think of calling for a ride, but you live nearby. You can make it home okay. It's no big deal. What are the odds that you'll get pulled over anyway? Even if you do get pulled over, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up. Maybe you lose your license. Maybe you lose your job. Maybe you total your car. Maybe you kill somebody. So this holiday season, make sure you make some plans to get around safe. Please be safe. Christmas, New Year's, make plans. Get yourself a ride in advance. Call for one of those ride sharing service. Just be smart about it, even if you think you might have just a single drink wherever you're at for your holiday parties. Everyone knows the risks about driving drunk, and the results are tragic and often deadly. However, that still doesn't stop everyone from getting behind the wheel when they are under the influence. And the police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on those roadways. So if you think you're okay to drive safe after a few drinks, think again, play it safe, and plan ahead to get a ride. It only takes one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. Okay, Croc, here we go now. Christmas. Are you gonna be like Crocky Claus right now on Christmas and give everybody a game ball? We've talked a lot about Brock Purdy. I think it's pretty clear he gets a game ball in this game. I got to give another ball on the offensive side of the ball to George Kittle. His six catches for 120 and 2 touchdowns. Love what he's been doing the last few weeks. And a quarterback's best friend is the tight end. So I'm looking for that to continue weekly now with George Kittle. And I hope he continues to get a ton of targets from Brock Purdy because it's so impactful, especially with Deebo Samuel out. Who else you got for game balls in this one, Croc?
Well, listen, I'm actually going to start off on the other side and who I'm not giving the game ball to. And we typically don't do that. We highlight the guys that play good. But was Mike McGlinchey trying to sabatage the 49ers in this game? So
Mike
whatever the
McGrinch?
opposite,
Mike McGrinchy?
Mike McGlinchey, whatever the opposite of a game ball is, that goes to Mike McGlinchey Mike McGrinchy. Because he was trying with the false starts, setting them up. We talked about the 49ers on those 3 possessions in the second half that they did not get touchdowns, that they were set up in short yardage situations. Well, 1, maybe 2 of them were killed because of a drive-ending penalty by him, false start. Now in a red zone or goal line situation, you're backed up, and it's tough to score from there. So he gets the opposite of a game ball. Sorry, I just have to be a little. But aside from that, because there was so much good, Nick Bosa wreaking havoc. And now, even on the 2-point conversion, they scored. They had an opportunity to make it a 1-score game. And what did Bosa do? Big sack. That doesn't count as a sack, but just to stop them from getting that. Now it's a 10-point game instead of an 8-point game. And just what he did from the start of the game, a nice tackle for loss in the backfield on like one of the first plays of the game. He's hopping up and down. I'm like, oh, Bosa's feeling great right now. And that continued throughout the game, which he had 2 sacks, one that resulted in a fumble, interception, whatever the heck that was, but easily could have had another 2 where he was chasing quarterbacks down and getting to them, but they maybe got rid of the ball right before they hit the ground.
I do want to say in Mike McGlinchey's defense, though, that was a tough defensive line. It's the best defensive line the 49ers have faced to date, and there wasn't a lot of places to go in the running game, so I think that did help the defense have that advantage over the 49ers offensive line. There was 3 sacks for 16 yards in this game. Again, it wasn't perfect, but the 49ers were able to overcome it. And so I understand why it was a more difficult matchup. And McGlinchey had been playing some pretty good ball, as has the entire 49ers offensive line. Couldn't create a lot in the running game in this game, but overall, I think they played okay under the circumstances. And good enough, obviously, for the 49ers to pull out the win here against a really talented defensive line with a whole bunch of first rounders on it. Speaking of first rounders on the defensive line, though, give them the award, Defensive Player of the Year, right? I think this game on Christmas Eve, Nick Bosa won that award. 2 sacks in this game. You mentioned the other impact plays, 4 quarterback hits that don't, that aren't going to show up on the stat sheet necessarily, but he's already got 17 and a half sacks now, leads the league. Couple more sacks in the next couple of games, he might have an opportunity to get close to the record, at least a 20 sack situation here. And when
does
you're talking about
it, does he break Alden Smith's record?
I think he breaks Alden Smith's 49ers record, but not the Strahan record. No. He'd have to go on a crazy tear. That's still possible. If he does what he did in this game the last 2 weeks, that's definitely possible. And we could absolutely see him against Trace McSorley potentially in week 18, right? And with the way that the Cardinals are playing right now, getting those teams one-dimensional early and just letting him go. Because he's always been a really good player. I felt like he stepped it up on Christmas Eve. Like there was like a little extra something else. There's like, whoa, calm down, dude. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because
the weather was beautiful. You're at home. The crowd was absolutely rocking. I mean, you look in the stands, and we've seen even when the 49ers are good, maybe empty seats. It didn't feel like there were any empty seats. The crowd on third downs, loud as hell. They started chanting Bosa's name just out of nowhere. Bosa, Bosa. I mean, it was, so that could have, contributed to the extra juice that you saw him playing with. Beautiful weather, great crowd, loud, noisy, getting into it. And I think that charged up some of the defensive players, including Nick Bosa.
This is one of those games where you can say, everybody gets a game ball. And there was a lot of really good players on both sides of the ball, but I kind of want to just keep the Bosa game ball as something really important and leave it with him as sort of the captain of the defense. Just leave him with the game ball there. And I want to go back to the offensive side for my last game ball here. and give one to Ray McLeod. Huge play early in the game, a 71-yard run, and then a couple of nice play on special teams. And we haven't talked a lot about Ray McLeod this season, but stepping up, down, making some big plays with Debo out, and he's been a pretty darn good returner for the 49ers this year, which has been cool to see. So Niners special teams stepping up when they are needed. 3 of 3 for Robbie Gould as well on field goals. So shout out to 49ers special teams. And I'm going to give Ray McLeod, I think it's got to be his first game ball of the year.
Yeah, and I think Ray McLeod, I remember watching him in the preseason, and I just didn't see that dynamic ability as a return man. I'm like, this guy looks normal.
Yeah, he just looks all right. Yeah.
Yeah, and since then, I mean, he definitely has sprung off some really nice runs, creating some slippery ability to pick up an extra few yards when it looks like there's nothing there to be had. And he's been terrific. He's been sure-handed. That's the most important thing as a return guy. He's done an amazing job doing that. He's obviously doing punt return duty and kickoff return duty. So yeah, he's been really good. It's been fun to see how he's improved throughout this season and been more and more impactful in the return game, especially during these last 2 months of this winning streak.
Yeah, that's another good sign here. Just the momentum that you feel like with these 49ers. Ray McLeod playing his best ball, and Bosa and George Kittle and Brock Purdy and the offensive line, seems to be doing a really good job the last few weeks and continues to be pretty solid, even going up against a really, really tough defensive line in the Washington Commanders this week. So I love the way the team is trending right now. And this team is so fun to cover, so fun to watch. And the story is not done yet, Croc, but unless you have any more game balls or any more thoughts here, I think we should wish everybody a happy Christmas and get on out of here.
Yeah, last thing I want to say is just shout out to the coaching staff. And this is the coaching staff, the way this team is playing right now. This is what we were expecting earlier in the season. Better late than never. 49ers are hot to end the season, and this is what you want. Be really hot going into the playoffs. It's not about how you start. It's about how you finish, and they're finishing extremely strong right now.
It's about how you finish. More notes coming up later on in the week about that coaching staff, what it could look like next year. Vic Fangio is going to be a hot name for a lot of teams, including potentially the 49ers, depending on what happens with D'Amico Ryans. Updates on Jimmy Garoppolo's broken ankle, and tons more to talk about with this football team as we head toward the new year. Merry Christmas, everybody out there. Say hi to us in the chat on YouTube, on Twitter, at BD Peacock, at Eric_Crocker. We appreciate all of you and hope you all have a safe and happy holiday. Talk to you next time right here, Locked On 49ers.